Uh, if
I
you
was
feel
expecting
like
that one.
you feel like you shouldn't be paying child support, you should tune in. If you feel like you should, like the other parent should be paying more, you should tune in. This is a show where we're going to really talk about all things child support as much as we can, right? Because
Right,
we
right,
don't know all things, but we know
right.
from a parenting perspective, right? Me as a custodial parent, um, Danielle as a bonus parent, right?
Well,
But with both
being raised by
custodial
a
and
single mom,
non-custodial,
but
and being
also
raised by a single
right,
mom, right?
and
So,
being a therapist and a mediator. So yes, I kind of got all the experiences in regard being a child too. Yeah.
so good luck arguing with us on this show, okay?
Yeah, all of that.
So here's the thing. So Danielle, we were talking about child support. Um, I'm not going to say how this came about because that
Please
just
don't.
exposes too much, you know.
Correct.
But uh, I do want to talk about like what is child support? What is it for? Um, why is it necessary? Like, how did it come about? All these things, right? Because I think that sometimes people really have a misunderstanding of the purpose of child support and then what can be done. Like, I think there's a lot of stipulations that people want to put
Right.
around like how people spend the money, all these things. So let's go. Let's talk
Okay.
about what child support is. I'm gonna let you start.
You're gonna let me start. So I would say child support is money. And I'm saying money multiple times because sometimes there are parents who feel
Time.
that there you go, like who feel them doing something. And granted, not taking away, obviously, you need to actively be a parent as well, but kids are
Absolutely.
free. So
Right.
it is physical money that is given, or, well, yeah, it's the child support to whomever that other custodial parent is
Hmm.
related to the care of the child. So
Right.
before the pandemic happened, okay, kids are already expensive.
Yep.
Now they're an investment, okay. So with that being said, if anybody has not had has not
I
had
was
their
trying to write
child
something
support
down.
adjusted, I'm just saying, the cost of living for us costs more. The cost of living for the children costs more as well. So, but when
Right.
you think of caring for the child, the obvious: there's food, there's clothing, there's school, there's extracurricular activities, there's I will
And
say
we go
there's
wait. So before we do that, before we get into that,
okay,
because I
okay,
think
okay.
because like we about to go down a whole rabbit
Yeah,
hole,
we
and
are,
I just want to
we
make sure
are.
that we do this part because I think people don't understand that that child support is supposed to be for the living and medical expenses of children until they are adults, right? Now, when
Right.
we talk about
18.
living expenses, that covers a lot. Medical expenses can cover a lot, right?
Mhm.
Um, and this is a federal and state law that both parents are obligated to
Right,
provide financial support for the
right.
children. So there's not a, oh well, this
Somebody
person,
said, right,
right, they don't work. So that, well, if the child is 6 months and the mom or the dad isn't working and they're taking care of the child full time, calm down, right? You know what I
right,
mean? I think even before they even go into preschool or kindergarten, like sometimes you have to just allow them to raise a child. Now then there's the, oh well, they're not doing it. We're not getting into that. Well, maybe a little later. But the history of child support is that it was initiated to provide dependent children with stability through financial support. Now, we hear of these astronomical numbers, right?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, he's paying 80,000 a month or whatever. No child needs that amount. But I think that what people need to understand is that child support is supposed to be so that the child has the same means and the same lifestyle as both parents.
parents
So if
were in
you're
the home, right,
making enough to have to pay 80,000 a month in child support to someone who is making 10,000 a month income at all, right? It's because they're balancing. The child should have the same standard of living with both parents, and that's how the courts see it. That being said, I hear this complaint a lot. Well, now she getting her hair and her nails done. Well, now he's buying, Jordans or he got a new car. And I often ask people, particularly if their children are older. Do you think that maybe now that you're finally contributing, the custodial parent actually can use their own money to do things that they want for
For
themselves?
themselves. For
Whereas
themselves.
before, they
Yeah.
could not do things for themselves because they were just, everything had to be done for the
For the
kid. They had to
kid.
penny pinch every
Right.
second. Now
Right.
that you're giving $400 or $500 a month, okay, so I can see where, okay, that means $400 or $500 of their money is actually freed up. And maybe it ain't even a whole $400, right? It could
Right.
just be $200 of their money is
Right.
freed
You're
up a
almost
little bit.
150, okay?
So they can
Right.
start taking care of themselves
Themselves.
as well.
Correct. Right.
Okay,
But
so they
I'll
went
say
from
this
getting on
too.
the bus with the kid to having their own car. It's not that they're misusing the money, but now they can have a little bit more time as opposed to being at the bus stop 2 hours before they get to work. Now they can leave just an hour before. So the child support helps with the convenience of the day-to-day things that I think a lot of people don't talk about. What do you think?
And I'll say this as well, and I'm just going to put this out there, and I'm going to say it once, I'm going to say it once only. Yes, we are aware that there are parents who do not use the child support as they should. Okay, we are aware of that. We're speaking from the perspective of a responsible parent who is doing their due diligence correctly in regards to responsibilities of raising their children. Okay.
Now, but I also want to say, what is responsible to one may not be responsible to the other. For instance,
yes, that's where perception, right.
Because perception is everything. Because I've heard people say, so two things. One, well, he don't even need the child support because he makes this amount of money. It doesn't matter. You're still responsible for taking care of your kid.
Right.
But I've also heard, because sometimes I know how the girls like to tussle. But also there's the fact that the child support is there for several things. So when we're looking at those things, what we consider responsible. So if I consider responsible, like, okay, I use the child support to make sure that I'm helping with the rent, the lights, if the basic needs of the child are met, like you can't come over here asking for receipts for every single dollar. You understand what I'm saying? Because every time they open up that refrigerator, that's food and light bill, right?
Yes.
Like I'm washing clothes. Like if their basic needs are being met, they are not dirty. They are fed. They have a roof over their head. Like, don't come because you pay $400 a month and now you want receipts. Because let's just be honest, that ain't receipts. It's no receipts. What do you want me to provide you? Like you need the copy of the light bill. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you get those things, what you gonna do with that information? So if so in the summertime, my light bill can be $300-$400, but I don't get extra child support during the summertime. So not only is the light bill that much because my daughter's home all day, like we're home, right? Like I have to be mindful of my work schedule. I think that's something else that people don't think about. If I have to leave work to go and pick her up, or if I got to go in later because I got to drop her off, or if she gets sick, I have to take off work. Like all of this is stuff that the custodial parent usually does. Now, granted, there are a lot of non-custodial parents that help out with that. Some people will say, oh, well, you live further away, but were you helping when we were close? You understand what I'm saying? And when we were right there in the neighborhood, was I still the one to go, or the custodial parent still the one to go and get the child if they were sick, or if they hurt themselves, or if they have a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment? Because all of those things hit the custodial parent's income, or hit the parent's income who's doing it. So if we're not sharing those responsibilities, then it all falls on whatever parent is doing it all. So that makes a huge difference. If you buy the shoes for basketball or for soccer, but then the other parent has to take off work to get them to all the practices, or you know what I mean? Like, even if they don't have to take off at that time, if they have to do the maneuver, because gas, and people go, oh, just gas. But no, I still got to take the wear and tear on my car into consideration. And you don't. So when you're complaining about what things cost, the other way to fix that is to have 50-50.
Yeah.
But if you don't want 50-50, oh, because I got to work. Oh, because I got to do this. Oh, then you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful of what you are badgering the other parent about. And I know that there are a lot of blended families, right?
Mhm.
And so, you have a parent who's like, well, you got help. Well, so like if my spouse is helping me, that
Right.
doesn't mean that you are relinquished of your responsibilities.
Right, exactly. Right. You are still the parent and you're still responsible for raising of the child. And part of the raising is the financial aspect. But what I was going
Absolutely.
to say, real quick, just for clarity in regards to with me saying that we are aware that there are people or parents who do not properly use the child support.
Mhm.
I'm speaking from we're literally seeing mom or dad suited and booted and their child looking like an orphan. Okay. Hair not combed, shoes ran
Right.
over, holes. That's what I'm speaking from. So it's
Got it.
clearly shown that that parent is not using the money to take care of their child. That's what I'm getting
Absolutely.
at. Um,
Absolutely. But I also think that how much a parent is getting. So if I'm getting $200 a month and my rent is, two thousand because we are in LA, right? Like
right,
so
right,
two
right.
thousand, 2,700, 3,000 for a two
Mm-hmm.
bedroom, and
Mm-hmm.
you over there in that one bedroom, right? Because you don't have our child every day. So you get to stay in your one bedroom, whereas I have to make sure that she
Yeah.
has her own space and I have my own
Mm-hmm.
space. Like there
Mm-hmm.
are things to be considered. But
Right.
if you paying $200, like you can't say, oh well, yeah, she not taking because I I literally might just only have enough to keep a roof over our head. We might also be over here with the lights out, right? In
Yeah.
addition to our kid not being clean, because there are other things. So I think that sometimes people have to consider what is it that is involved. It's more than just, oh, I gave this money, so I don't have to do
Right. It's
anything
more than
else.
just a check. Right. It's kind of like, I wonder if people ever actually like, and I just thought of this, have
Mhm.
a budget related to the child support and not their own financial budget, but what their percentage is that's contributed to child support, what it actually covers, what they think it
Right.
covers, and I mean, granted, that will result in them trying having to communicate with the other parent, but what
Right.
they think it covers, but what it actually covers. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be like, "Whoa," they'll be shocked because it's kind of like the same way that you got lights and gas, the same way the child has to, your child got to have lights. You know what I mean? Like it
Right.
kind of just disappears, out of the head. It's supposed to miraculously just supposed to happen. And that
Absolutely.
should be a good thing. Do that. Where it's like, okay, people, hey, email us, okay, at the real on parenting at gmail.com and let us know what is the financial number that you get monthly. List what other activities, your typical bills. You ain't got to tell each bill it is, but your typical
Right.
bills, you're going out, your day to day, your week to week, and so we can see like realistically what does that actually cover.
Right.
I have personally where the parent was contributing, I want to say it was like 200 or something dollars, but of
Mhm.
that 200 or something dollars, 100 or something went to the kids.
Mhm.
So if you do the math, if 100 of the 200 or something, that leaves you 100, leaves 100 to contribute to the feeding of the kids.
Right.
But when you have a football player, that $100 is gone in a day.
Right. Because
A
for
day.
sure, when my daughter is playing
A
sports,
day.
her stomach knows it.
So exactly. So it's like, what why does one think in that way? And granted, don't get me wrong, we are aware that y'all have bills too. However, we all got bills.
Right.
So I would want to know, like, and even email in. What do you think? For those who pay child support, what do you feel that money is actually covering? That would be a good. Probably
So
has
let's
some.
talk about what we know it's covering, right?
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think that,
yeah.
people go, oh, well, I bought the school, the clothing for school. I bought the
Mm-hmm,
shoes and the clothes. So that
mm-hmm.
should be enough. Well, did you consider that they got school supplies? Because let me tell you something, this school supply bill, what are y'all doing? Like, how do you need new pencils? Like, I feel like I'm using the same pen for the whole year. What is going on, right? But you got to consider
Right.
that the kids are
Yeah,
not as
they have
responsible.
nothing.
That the school supplies, and then there's the school stuff. Like, you have photos, and I know a lot of people say, well,
Right.
they
Don't
don't
say
have
the
to take
school
the photos.
events.
They don't have to have the yearbook, but we can't just say no to everything. So if you don't consider that to be child support, are you willing to pay half of that?
Yes,
Because
their school activities and their school events.
there's
That just be popping
dances,
up. If the parent then that may not know, it's like, oh, Monday, you have wait, what? You have what? And when
right?
you're who's budgeted because you have to, I mean, we all should budget, but because you have to really budget an extra $5, even though it's $5, that ain't in the budget. You
And
know what I
then when
mean?
they have Kayla's school had a dance, and it was like cost of getting the dance, and then there's the drinks and the snacks and stuff at the dance.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's that I gotta rearrange my schedule so that I can pick her up from the dance. Then there's the bingo night that they had, which was really fun, but it costs to get into the bingo night.
Sure it is.
It
And then
costs
guess
to
what?
eat.
She got hungry. See, then she
Right.
thirsty.
Then
It's a
there's
whole
the
trickle down
the
effect.
raffle, and it's like you want your kid to have a good time. This is a good thing for
Yeah.
you and them
Mm-hmm.
socially, because you want
Right.
to get to know the other parents, because eventually
Right.
these parents become your network. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I have one
Right.
parent
They do.
that I'm like, listen, uh, if I need you to pick up my kid, can you? Right now,
Right.
my mom is very helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes she has her own doctor's appointments.
Yeah,
Sometimes
she has
her
her own
husband
stuff.
has appointments
Yeah.
that she wants to be there for. So I'm like, hey, can you get Kayla? But I'm still rushing home because I don't want my kid here by herself. You understand what I'm saying? But I know
Right.
I'm not going to make it at the school. So, like, 10 minutes by herself, I can live with. But that still means that I have to arrange my schedule. I have to get off early. I have to do this early. Like, it's so much. And I don't think that people consider that. Now, granted, that's all part of parenting. That
Right.
is literally just parenting. But
Right.
when I have to do it all myself,
Yeah.
then it really does take a bunch of resources out of our home, right? As a custodial parent. When I say do it by myself, I mean as the custodial parent.
Yes.
So you have all these things related to school, and then when they join a sport, right?
Or it's
There's the
any type of
time.
activity. Right. Any type of activity.
And so I think that a lot of times people don't consider that, but the activity alone. I mean, Kayla's dad just bought her shoes for basketball. I don't know how much the shoes were, but I'm guessing just because of the price of shoes, there's probably like $100, $120, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, so he paid for that. So let me figure out. Now, mind you, I have to take off to make sure that I can pick her up. I can't mandate my village. So I have to be the one doing that, right? So
Right.
I have to make sure I pick her up. I have to make sure that she has her fruit and her Gatorades. And so while the shoes are a one-time fee, everything else is a recurring fee.
But hunger is ongoing. So
right. And so that, you know what I mean? So I gotta go, okay,
ongoing.
when she gets out of school, she has to have a quick snack before she goes and exerts all this extra energy. So I gotta make sure. So today I gotta go and get like apples and just some fruits and things, just some quick things that are healthy. But then it's like I can spend $30 on that, but I got to spend that $30 every week. So now this $100 that you have spent, and this is in no way like talking about Kayla's dad. I'm using it as a personal experience.
Exactly.
So that $100 you spent in a month's time, I've spent $120 just on the snacks. We're not even talking about the gas to get there, pick her up, take her, drop her off, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got to make sure she has a towel. I have, like, she was just like, Mom, I need a backpack just for sports. No problem. We got plenty of bags here. I didn't have to go buy it, but it's still like we got to make sure that all these things are together. So when you're saying, oh, I bought this, there's a lot more that goes to making sure that she can go and play her sport. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that sometimes the non-custodial parent is not thinking about that. They're not thinking about, the games and the things that are going to have to go with it.
Right. I would say that there are a lot of non-custodial parents who don't think about it because that has not been their experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
very true.
So when they get that experience is when they're off for spring break or they're off for Christmas break, and they may have a week of that time, and they like, woo, Lord, exactly.
Right. Assuming that they get them during that time, because a lot of times the non-custodial parent does not get them during the break. So it's like the custodial parent has to, again, rearrange the schedule, take off work,
Right,
like all of that
very
hits
true.
the custodial parent's income.
Right, right. But and also, but with that, or let me rephrase that as well, or have them more than their usual and whatever that looks like in between.
Yes.
And they may have glimmers or glimpse of what realistically it doesn't look that way, but for them, in regards to what that entailed, is like, you know, where they're in the car and then the friends, I mean, your child says, "Oh, can I go to such and such house?" And then trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And so,
listen, and then when you send them, that's the extra expense because we got food at the house. If you go spend the night somewhere, as a parent, I have to make sure that I send some money because who sends their kids places and don't send? Well, actually, a lot of people do. Let me.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't.
A lot of people do, but I don't send my kid anywhere and not make sure that they have money. And I attest to that because when I have your daughter, you like, hey, so she got her card. If I got to Zelle her some money, right? That Zelle hits the account because right then. So it's not like
the other person's responsibility, the parent responsibilities to all of a sudden pay for this stuff for my child. No.
Right. And if you have my child, I want to, like, you're giving me a break, a breather, a relief. So I absolutely want to make sure that you're as comfortable as possible. Right.
Right.
But I even do that with my mom. Like I call it a mom support check, right? Like, because she has to pick up my daughter and she doesn't have to. She picks up my daughter for me. Sometimes, you know, Kayla doesn't want to come home after school. She's like, can I just go to grandma's? My mom is feeding her. You know, like the other day, my mom got her. She was like, "This child swears she's starving." Well, she probably is because she never wants to have breakfast, and then she doesn't like the school lunch, so she might eat a bite and then she move on. So by the time she gets home, I usually try to have dinner ready, right? Something that like it's already cooked, you know, and then I could just go ahead and warm it up or something like that. Right. But I try to have dinner ready when she comes home because I know that she's not eating throughout the day and God forbid she actually, you know, take a snack. Like apparently that ain't cool. I don't know. But there's a lot. There's a lot that goes with it. So I also think that, you know, when kids injure themselves, that's a surprise medical bill that we were not counting on. That hits the budget. The copay, the medicine.
No, sick out of nowhere. And having to go to the emergency department, which is not a $20 copay, you know, and you have to pay it. They're gonna hold you. They're gonna hold you until you pay that money. Like,
but even if you don't have a copay, again, you still taking off work. You still, if when Kayla injured her ankle, that the medicine would have probably been covered, but the wrap is not covered. Like that, the Epsom salt ain't covered.
The other things. Yeah, the other things. Right. No, for real. No, very much true. So, I mean, there are so many things that happen if you, even if you just think of your child when they're a baby, they teeth, they get sick, you know, they have tummy issues, you know, there's things that happen and it doesn't stop because they get older.
Yes.
At all. Obviously they're not teething, but there's things that are happening that requires unexpected doctor's appointments.
So speaking of teething, there's also braces, right? We're going through that right now.
Like, what's the transition to that? Exactly. There's braces.
And those $3,500 for braces? So, and that apparently that's on the cheap side. I'm like, the cheap side.
I had them twice. So yes. So second time my mom said she ain't paying for it. So it was on me. But
I don't blame her because like what didn't happen the first time? Like, I'm going to take you back to the dentist and y'all work it out.
Call me when y'all done came to a conclusion that doesn't require my money. But
exactly.
But also it even just, I mean, kind of some of like the simplest things. Our children grow. So when I say for the year before last, it felt like my child was growing every other week.
Yes.
So typically it's like, okay, you know, you kind of learn what's in the realm to buy enough of to get you to, okay, this should last 6 months. This should last 8 months. When I tell you every 2 to 3 months, she was asking for something. I'm like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
What's happening? Because I done spent, they growth don't care about how much you spend, but I done spent X amount of money. Girl, when I tell you she had between 5 to 6 new wardrobes because she had grew out of everything from shoes to underwear to undergarment. Only the fit with socks.
Listen, so I hit
Costco. Those growth spurts, man.
and it's a real, so I went to Costco and I was just like, okay, let me get her 3 packs of socks. That's 30 socks, right? Now I had to look, I was like, okay, hopefully her foot does not grow
Bro,
from a 7 to a 10 within this next year. Like I'm like, this is socks for the year.
no, I understand. No, I truly
It
understand.
sucks for the year because when I looked at the chart from January 2nd of last year to today, Kayla has grown 2 inches. Now, in perspective, like two
He's
inches
in
is not
that
a
when she,
lot, but when you're growing out of clothing,
no, say no,
right?
yeah, that means my default is no, she's growing out of stuff that she can no longer wear. That means it has to, you have to buy clothes she can't wear.
Right, because flooding ain't a thing, you know what I mean? Like
No, it's
as
not.
much as we want to say capri pants, like and I remember in school, like if our pants were getting too short, we would pull them up to
Yes,
to the
and it was
calves,
cute.
right?
It was cute. That needs
Right,
to
we
come
could do
back. That
that.
really needs to come
But
back.
sometimes you just can't, some pants you just can't do that. And as my grandfather would say, if your shoes catch on fire, if your pants catch on fire, your shoes ain't had nothing to do with it. So we can't have around here flooding and going through that, right? But let's talk about things that
We
people don't
digress.
necessarily listen. About things that people don't necessarily think of when it comes to child support, because there are things that our kids need, and some people go,
Right.
well, just tell them no, but they have to have experiences. Like we can't cut out all the school trips. Now granted,
Right.
Kayla went to camp, she went camping, like science camp. That's educational. I think
Mhm.
that she should be able to go, so that we have to figure out. But there's another trip to DC and New York. And I'm like, well, it's an experience that she should have, but I can't obligate the other parent to pay for
Right.
that because
Exactly.
that's not a necessity, right? I thought
Mhm.
science camp was a necessity though, because again, it's stuff that she doesn't normally get, and she loves science.
Mhm.
So that's something I felt like was a necessity. But
Right.
I think that there is the thing like I'm trying to think. I was gonna say the things that people don't also consider. If they're in a sport, like we have to keep them active, right?
Right.
We can't just say no to everything. But there's
Right.
hair stuff. There is,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
the skin stuff, right? If they need a special kind of soap because their skin is sensitive, or a special kind of deodorant, if
Right.
they need a foot fungus cream, right? Like these kids are playing
And those
sport
are
and
the
that
things.
becomes a thing. Say that
Right.
again.
I was just reiterating what you were saying. Like there are things that, like you said, you don't. Well, your child's body and how it responds to things. You know, as a parent, you don't get to dictate that. So it does come down. Like I think
Right.
you guys share one of the examples on one of our shows in regards to a certain pamper. You know what I mean? It's a
Right.
certain detergent. Like we are purchasing what we need because by way of how our child is responding to it, you know, or their body, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
or their skin, you know.
Their
Um,
vitamins,
it
right?
was
Because they get older and they got to have like when there was a point last year where Kayla's doctor was like, she needs something with iron. So it was
mm,
like, you need to get her a multivitamin with iron. That's not covered in insurance.
I'm gonna
That's
send
an
you a
out of
link
pocket
though, but go
expense,
ahead.
but it's something that she absolutely needs.
Needs right, right,
And now, granted, her and then there's the dog, right?
right,
But granted, there's so many things that our kids
right,
need on a day-to-day basis. And we can't say, oh, well, you can't have it. There's certain snacks. She can't have peanut butter, but she can have almonds. And you know what I mean? Like
right,
there's all
right,
these things that
yeah,
we have to consider. And I
right,
think that sometimes when the non-custodial parent is not there in the day-to-day, they don't necessarily
right,
think about it. But I also think that sometimes the custodial parent is like trying to like skirt around it because there are other expenses. So it's like, well, do you have to take that vitamin every day? Or can we do like
right,
every other day and it still help?
right.
And
And there
so
are
that
parents
puts the
who
child
do
in
that.
danger.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, it puts their health in jeopardy, you know. And there are parents who are the custodial parents who don't want to ask,
Right.
you know, because of what comes with it, you know.
Right. The
And when
the
I yeah,
attitude,
I was
the
just
I
like
pay this and I'm
exactly,
already doing it.
and it's
And it's and
right,
then when we look at the needs of our children, we shouldn't have to ask. We shouldn't
exactly.
have to
It
ask for their
should be like,
needs.
what does my child need? That
Right.
honestly, that's what the question should be to the custodial parent. And it's
And I don't
unfortunate.
mind. because non-custodial parent asking like, hey, this is what I need. Just give me the details. Because sometimes they like, I'll pay it directly to the people. I'm not giving it to you. I totally get that too, right? But at the same time, here's an itemized list of everything that they need or everything that they spent. Are you willing to give me half? Right? Because we did go half on the baby, right? So
No,
are
for
you
real.
willing to pay for the half? And
Right.
again, not the extras, but sometimes there are extras. Like I had a friend tell me that they're paying like $10,000 a year for their child to participate in cheer. Now you can say, oh, well, that's not a necessity. But do we just keep the kids locked up in the house?
Yeah.
Do we not use this to get scholarships? You understand what I'm saying? Like there's a lot that comes with it.
Right. And you know, and the topic of child support is something that can be talked about on and on and on from various perspectives and experiences.
Absolutely.
But what it comes down to is that, no, let me say this. There are some parents who wholeheartedly pay what they need to pay. I've worked with some parents who the courts say pay this and they pay more than that. Just because they don't want the custodial parent to have to want to feel the need to not be able to provide for their child.
Right.
So, and that's awesome, and that is great. But you know, however, that's not everybody's situation. And there are people who don't make a certain amount of money, and they're like, "How am I going to live?" And that's it. Girl, my default thought, but I'm going to keep it to myself. That is something that you would kind of have to make some You have to make the proper adjustments accordingly. Everything is expensive, literally, even more so after the pandemic. So, but at the end of the day, like Miss Coach Kiana was saying, that your child should just be sit up in the house.
Right.
We know we go outside, we step on the front porch, and it's $30. Literally. Okay, so just imagine your child want to go up the street around the corner to the friend house, to the movie, to the event.
Yes.
That's
and child support doesn't
later.
Cover that. Child support don't cover the friend's house. It does not. It does not cover birthdays. And Monday,
you looking like, what I'm supposed to get these salads because I just spent this $200 for her to do two things. Two things.
Right. So, and like child support doesn't cover birthdays. It doesn't cover Christmas. It doesn't cover. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you, and granted, you know, the non-custodial parent is probably buying things as well, but it's not like it's even. Like usually, you know, my first thought with Christmas time is, what does she need? She needs clothes and all that. So then I'm not the fun parent because I'm not buying, you know, the good stuff, but I'm like, this is the stuff you need.
What she actually needs, right.
Birthday parties are not covered under child support. Halloween costumes are not covered under child support. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot that goes with it, you know, especially, I mean, and I'm sure there's a level of boys you could talk to, but as girls, like those manicure and pedicures, they're not covered under child support.
And granted, you know they might say like that's not something that's needed, and to each his own, because the people that know me, the nails gonna be done. Okay, the nails gonna be nailing. And so, but for me, even though my husband and I were married, but there are certain things that I don't say pay for this. No, like because I feel that's a thing, that's a me thing. I acknowledge that, and so I take care of that.
Absolutely.
And even when I was they're the adults now, but when my kids, like my bonus kids as I call them, you know, even when they were living with us and hair needed to be done and, you know, haircuts needed to happen, we actually went half, you know, so it can't be done, you know, there can be a mutual agreement in regards to certain things.
But also considering the time it takes to do those things. Like if you're saying, hey, I'm not willing to pay for braids or, you know, elaborate hairstyle, right? Like what, a French roll, right? But you like, I'll go half on the shampoo. Okay, well, if I gotta do the shampooing and you understand, it's like come on, like let's be honest about how this is still not even if we go half on the shampoo, but then I gotta spend 2 hours out of my day shampooing, conditioning, blow drying, pressing, curling. Like if we paid a stylist to do that, it would be so much more. Versus you're saying, oh, because I can do it, then then there's no, and I'm not asking to be compensated for doing my daughter's hair. Absolutely not. Say that again.
Let me take a moment because I just needed a moment. Let me take a breath. Okay. All right.
Listen,
I'm okay. I was about to, when you start going left real quick. All
Right.
right.
Now listen,
So
because we are two women, right? I think I don't want people to hear this and go, "Oh, they're bashing dads," because we're not. We're talking about custodial versus non-custodial. I'm a custodial parent, so for me, there's a perspective that I'm very sure Kayla's dad may not have, but when he did have the perspective, it was 30 years ago. And so, or 25 years ago. So that makes a huge difference as well,
different. Yes.
because the amount of money it costs to do things back then is very different.
It's very different, right?
It's very the same pack of meat that I'm paying $25 for now.
Girl.
In 2022, January 2022, it was $11. So there is a huge increase in everything.
Right, right.
So when you have a custodial parent who is not taking you back to court for child support, like consider the increase of the things you're paying for, they're paying for it too, times two. Right.
Right. And I want to say this as well. I'm speaking from all of it. I was the child who my mom raised me by herself. Her child support check was what, $60, not because he gave it willingly. It's because anytime he worked a legal job, that is what was taken.
That's the other side. Them under the table jobs that don't take anything.
And so because of that, he did a lot of under the table employment, if you want to call it that.
Right.
Anyways, but also, and then also the aspect of just seeing as you become older, you know that you have your own children, like, ooh. And when I tell you I was in every activity, I was in so many activities.
Shout out to Mama Donna.
Yes. Ooh, this is my mama. She probably downstairs. But every activity, I was in so many activities that people didn't even know that I lived on that street. Because I was only home to sleep. Literally sleep and bathe. That was it. So from track to cross country to band, all the things, and then I used to laugh at her because she'd be sleeping in the car. But girl, I need a nap right now, okay? I get it. I apologize, Mama, because I used to laugh at you in the naps. But with that, I was I won't say I was able, because it wasn't my choice. I experienced seeing my mom work her behind off because she could not depend on the version of child support, if she even got it, that she ended up getting. And then also, and then on the flip side of being a bonus mom and seeing what that looks like. And granted, it wasn't always easy. There was very difficult conversations. There were things
because money comes out of your home to go support the children in another home. And so then there is like, well, wait a minute, why is it so much? And then you start adding up, it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah. And then my son played football. There were several emergency department visits, that co-pays wasn't $50, which still was a lot. So I have a perspective from both places. But just understand that when with child support, it is something that should not, I feel it should not be an ongoing argument. Your kid doesn't stay 2, your kid doesn't stay 12, your kid doesn't stay 18. With age, as they get older, things shift. They have different interests, they have different hobbies, and those things cost money. And to care for them increases, it costs money. So if you are upset because you're no longer paying $350 since they were 2, you should check yourself, because now they're 12.
Right. So everything costs more. Exactly. Their shoes cost more, their socks, their underwear costs more. And so there's a level of, and then when you only get your child on the weekend or every other weekend, like you can have 8 outfits for them, and that's that.
Right.
That's that. Like, you know what I mean? Really, you can have 3 outfits and that's that, right? Yeah. But when the other parent is there day in and day out, I just think that there has to be consideration. Now, I am for responsible parenting and using, the money for what it is intended for, which is to take care of your child. That being said, I think that sometimes as non-custodial parents, we have to check ourselves and go, oh, well, wait a minute. Because they did also do this. They did also do that. Like snacks alone, the snack bill. And we don't even eat a lot of snacks, but the snack bill. But like today, she wants to make chocolate pie. I don't keep ingredients to make chocolate pie.
Right.
That's a store run. But what do I do? Do I say, hey,
go to the store?
Right. But do I say, hey, you know what? Look, we ain't gonna do nothing. Like you don't need to learn. She got to learn how to cook.
Right.
So yeah, and when she's cooking, the other day, she made her Alfredo sauce. And so I was like, look, you putting too much. You put too much of this. You understand what I'm saying? So those trial and errors and just teaching her the basic skill of cooking,
Right.
it still costs more. She has to
Right.
learn. And so when you're budgeting for groceries, you got to budget for what you're going to be teaching. You got to budget for what else is happening. So I think that there's a lot of conversations around child support. And I'll always hear people say like, well, they putting people in our business. Well, when we can't come to an agreement, because I live in California, the state of California will come to an agreement for us. Now you mad because you paying more when I was only asking for this, or now you mad because you was trying to be greedy and get more, and the courts cut it down. Now you mad about that. Have a conversation first,
Right.
if at all possible.
Right.
Not always possible, but have a conversation first.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Something else I wanted to say right quick is
your facial expression willed me in. I'm sorry.
So, but because it makes me think of when a child asks for something, or your child asks for something, and it may be asking the other parent who's paying the child support, and they want to write, well, I paid this. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. And the reason why is because it makes the child feel bad for what they're asking for, as if what they're asking for was something wrong with that. Because you feel whatever way that you feel in regards to the child support that you're paying, that has nothing to do with your child. That should never be your response to your child.
100% agree.
And I say that with my whole chest, even though I'm speaking very calmly, but I see the emotional impact.
I got your back, girl. Let's go. What they
gonna
do? Run up on
I see the flip side of that, the emotional impact that it has on your children.
Absolutely.
And it's not a good place to be in, and it's not something they necessarily just get over. It sticks with them as adults. So if your child is asking for something and you feel that's about to jump out your mouth, just be quiet. Even let them say, did you hear me? Just say, yes, let me think about it, because that opens a whole another can of worms that can be prevented, honestly, when it comes to your child. There's a time and place for everything. As your children gets older, but also the level of maturity determines what that conversation may and should entail. But however, that should not be the response to your child. I'm speaking by way of custodial parent, when
you got me thinking about something.
Okay.
Because I recently said, Kayla asked for something, and I was like, okay, hold on. I was like, let me think it through, and mommy will make it happen. And when you just said what you said, I'm wondering if saying mommy will make it happen, mommy will figure it out, mommy will make it happen. I'm wondering if that's giving a signal of daddy doesn't have to. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm curious because I'm always conscious of making sure that she has an amazing relationship with her dad. Yeah. Like I think and so you said that and it triggered me like, wait, let's not that I need more therapy in front of all these people, but
but I'll say this. I would say it was nothing wrong with your response. I will say this because Kayla's very mature. So this is I'm speaking from this aspect. So if Kayla had concerns or any questions, she gonna ask. You know what I mean? So
facts.
You wondering if it implied, if she felt it implied, she just gonna ask you. So that's my response to that. But also with that though, as your children get older, they know and they see. So it's something that you don't necessarily need to. So it's not like you said, well, that means that because your daddy only give me, you didn't even go
right. No, I don't have that conversation.
And you don't do that. And I'm gonna put that clear. You don't do that.
I do not.
But there are some parents who do that. So who are the custodial parent. And it's like, don't do that either. But with that is like, when you said that mommy would figure it out, Kayla already knows that more than times than not, you're making it happen. And so, and that's all I'm gonna say to that. But that's all I'm gonna say to that. But with that though, so I mean, to flip it to the custodial parent, my thought is watch your mouth, because you
Yeah,
don't need to speak ill of
of the other
the
parent.
other parent. You do not. Your kids see it. Your kids know it. You don't need to put a
And
cherry on top.
that's another part of them. And whether you believe it
Right.
or not, it hits their self-esteem when you are speaking
Exactly.
negatively about their
Right.
parent.
Because that's their parent. And they
Yeah.
internalize that you're talking about them. And that's it, because as we go on and on and on. But with that being said, though, please keep those things in mind. And granted, sometimes things do just jump out our mouth, and girl, you can catch it. So, and if you need to pause and stop yourself in the middle of a sentence, stop yourself, and you can say,
Yeah.
"Give me a minute," and just walk away.
Right.
That's okay too. But just
Right.
be mindful of
We
your
should
words.
never be crapping on the other parent in the
Right.
name of justifying things to our kids.
Correct.
Sometimes I think that we do it as a form of self-defense, or like we feel attacked or whatever the case may be. Take that moment. Take that
Yes.
moment and pause and
Yes.
just say, let me think about it. Let me figure it out. Because when, like you said, they hear it. They hear the
And
tone.
they see
They
yeah.
even when you blinking, right? Like I always be like, don't blink in that
Yes.
tone, right? So when you blinking in the tone, yeah,
Right.
y'all
Right.
see it. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So be
Yeah.
mindful, because all that and I don't think child support conversations should be had with a child without both parents there. Like,
I
and I'm all for having the conversation, but I think both
Yeah,
parents need to
but
be
I
there.
agree.
One,
Right.
to keep it honest, but I know
Correct.
that everybody can't do that, because some people are not mature enough to say, well, wait a
Yeah.
minute, let me get this breakdown. Let me tell you this above and beyond,
Right.
because yeah, I could have got them, sheets that was paper thin that cost $5 at the thrift store, but she needs some sheets that I can wash and they don't tear apart. So yeah, I went
Right.
on and spent $60 for her sheets, right?
Yeah.
And then my child got a queen size bed, honey. It's a whole situation in there. So,
Right.
keeping that kind of stuff in mind,
Yeah.
there's this balance, but as parents, we don't get to say, well, I don't buy you the cheap sheets. I get you the good stuff. And so your other parent needs it. No,
Right.
we can't do
Yeah.
that. We have to be
You do
mindful of
what you're
how we're
supposed to
saying
do.
it.
You don't have to announce it. You just do what you're supposed to do.
That part right
That's
there,
it, and that's all.
announcing it. Because if you are announcing everything, you're not doing enough. Because let me tell you, because that custodial parent can't even name all the stuff they do. Like, it's something they literally have to sit down and like take a week. Like, okay, what did I do this week? What did I do that week?
Yeah.
Because those books that we buy that aren't covered in child support. Those
Yeah.
videos and things like that, those movies that we take, it's not covered in child support. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like all these things that have to happen when your child breaks the table, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, that custodial
Yeah.
parent has to,
Things
well, actually
happen.
both parents,
Right.
it doesn't matter where they are. If they break the table, the parent has to
It has to take care
replace
of.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
there are costs that are associated that are not everyday things, but you don't get to say, well, you didn't have to get a new table. Well, where the hell are we gonna eat?
Right.
Like, so we just got to be on the floor. Like, you understand what I'm saying? So I mean,
Yeah.
even a card table. I bought a card table a couple of years ago, and I was like $80 for the table and chairs. So I was like, good Lord. Like, so I know, a good, when we moved here, I didn't even get a living room, a dining room set, because I knew we were going to be in the house, because it was the beginning of the pandemic. So I didn't get a dining room set, because I was like, she needs a space to move
Space. Yeah.
around, and you know what I mean? Like, we couldn't even go outside to go, you know what I mean? Like, the
Right.
park was closed off, and the
Everything was
pool was
closed.
closed
Yeah.
off. So it was like we in the house. So she needed a place where she could just
Right.
play in the house. And so we still don't have a dining. I bought the card tables, because I was like, I'm hosting Thanksgiving. I don't know where for these people to sit. Right. And so when I think about that, and then they, like, her and her friends broke the table, one of the tables. So, I'm just like, in my mind, I
Right.
start calculating. Right.
Right. Yes. Unfortunately, I do. I'm aware. Yeah. When it's like, when things happen, and then I don't do math. The numbers get to.
But
Anyway,
there's so much, she spills something on the car seat, or, or on the seats in the car, or, you know what I'm saying? They break a
Right.
mirror, or they, hit the ball. And now, like, she hit the sliding glass window with the ball last night. Luckily it didn't break, but had it broken, I just got to
Right, girl. I was
replace it.
holding
Like,
my
I don't
breath.
have
Right.
any other
Right.
options. Right. And
Right,
so all
right,
those little
right.
things that
Yeah.
we have to consider, y'all be mindful of how you
Be
approach these
mindful.
subjects.
Yes.
But if you have, if you're doing child support, if you whether you're paying it or you're receiving it, maybe bringing the other parent in to listen to this recording, and saying, hey,
Yes.
you know what, like maybe we need to think about, like, and do an assessment. What is going on? Like, how is this? Because I can't do a one bedroom because our child needs space. Do you want them, if I start dating somebody, do you want them just, we in a studio apartment and now they seeing me and my significant other kissing or whatever the case may be? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I
they
get what
need their
you're saying.
space.
Right,
I
right,
need my space. And
right.
sometimes as these kids get older and puberty hit, space is a lifesaver, literally.
Yeah.
Like, you're like,
Yes.
wait a minute.
Right. Yes. Space
How
is
does
needed.
that?
I mean, everybody's situation is different, but if it is an option, every child should have their own space along with the
Absolutely.
parent, the same way the parent has their own space.
Yes.
But like Coach Yana was saying, like share this with your friend. Share it with a family member. Share it with a coworker. Because we all have life
Absolutely.
happening. We all have sometimes similar life experiences, and when in child support. So that they can just hear somebody else say it, or it just may shed light on something that they did not take into consideration, or that hasn't been their experience, so they didn't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And y'all can email us your thoughts on this. Email us, what did we get right? What you think we got wrong? Not what did we get wrong, but what you think we got wrong.
Right. I want to say think, right?
I don't open myself up to everything. Send us a message, therealonparenting@gmail.com. Thank you again for another episode. Like, subscribe, share. You can catch us over on Spotify as well. Yes,
Yeah.
you can catch us on Spotify, The Real on Parenting over there as well. But if you want it firsthand, if you want it brand new, catch us right here on Brownstone Worldwide. Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.